As evening settled over the Sea of Galilee, Jesus instructed his disciples to get into the boat and cross to the other side, while he remained behind. The sky glowed with the final light of sunset as the 12 disciples pushed their wooden fishing boat into the water. After sending the crowd away, he walked alone up the hillside to pray. The night grew deeper as he knelt beneath the open sky. Far from shore, the disciples battled strong winds as a storm began to rise. The calm water quickly turned violent. Dark clouds covered the sky, waves crashed against the boat, and the wind pushed hard against them. For hours they fought against the storm, pulling the oars with all their strength. One of the disciples looked across the waves and saw something impossible. A figure walking on the water. At first, they were terrified, thinking it was a ghost moving through the storm. The waves crashed, lightning flashed, and yet the figure continued walking calmly across the sea toward them. Then a voice called out above the wind, telling them not to be afraid. It was Jesus. He stood upon the water, calm in the middle of the storm, his presence bringing peace where fear had ruled. Peter, filled with bold faith, called out and asked if he could come to him on the water. Jesus welcomed him. Peter stepped carefully over the edge of the boat, and for a moment he did the impossible. He walked on the water toward Jesus. With every step, his eyes stayed fixed on the Lord standing before him. But when Peter noticed the strength of the wind and the size of the waves around him, fear entered his heart. He looked down at the storm instead of forward in faith, and immediately he began to sink. Reaching upward through the crashing water, Peter cried out for help. Without hesitation, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. In the middle of the storm, he lifted Peter up and held him steady above the waves. Together, they walked back toward the boat. As soon as Jesus stepped into the boat, the storm stopped. The wind became still, the waves calmed, and the sea grew quiet beneath the moonlight. The disciples stood in silence, overwhelmed by what they had seen. The one who walked upon the sea, who commanded the storm, and who saved Peter from sinking, stood among them in perfect peace. They bowed before him in worship, realizing more deeply who he truly was. As dawn arrived, the first light of morning spread across the Sea of Galilee. The distant shoreline appeared, and the disciples guided the boat safely to land. They stepped onto the shore with hearts changed by what they had witnessed. Peter stood quietly looking back across the calm sea where fear had once ruled, now replaced by faith. Jesus walked ahead of them along the shoreline, his disciples following behind. The storm had passed, but the lesson remained forever. When faith stays fixed on Jesus, even in the middle of the storm, fear loses its power.